cases, which is where the juvenile is the offender, whether that be truancy or whether that be committing a law violation, versus an abuse neglect. I said that we had switched. Compared to 2 years ago, 70% of our cases were the juvenile delinquency cases and roughly 30 were the abuse neglect. We are at 66.5% abuse and neglect cases, with the remainder being split between juvenile felonies, juvenile misdemeanors, and what are called status offenses, truancy, mental health, things of that nature. So last year we had 47 cases that were juvenile abuse and neglect cases where the kids are the victims. So again, that call for foster parents, that call for CASA volunteers, anybody who can do anything for these kids just needs to echo that louder. So if there are any other questions, I'll take them. That's all I had.
Anybody?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Seeing other officials in the room, as Chris stated, so anybody from the public that would like to come forward at this time may do so and speak for a couple minutes on whatever. Morning.
Morning.
Name and address, if you would, for the record, sir.
Dustin Drake, 1919 Road Q, Waco, Thayer Village, Nebraska. I'm the chairman of the Thayer Village Board. Come before you with questions about our election, write-in candidates. Again, we've received write-in votes, and we can't seem to get the candidates' names. So we're wondering how we would go about that.
We would visit with,
Yeah, just come talk to me after the meeting, or you can go to the election office and speak with Kayla, and she can get you the write-ins that were.
That she sent our village board, our secretary email saying that the office did not receive any write-in affidavits from individuals who wish to be written in as a candidate for Thayer Village. Because of this, write-in votes for Thayer are not valid, not counted, so we don't have the information requested.
Right. If they did not sign the affidavit, then they weren't technically a write-in.
Did they have to do that
Mhm.
pre?
Yes, they had to
Was
do
there
that.
a date they had to do it by?
Yes.
What was that date?
I can't think, but if you talk to Kayla, she can tell you the exact deadline where they had to fill out the affidavit to be on
So
the
even if
ballot.
a person decides to run a write-in campaign after the affidavit is due, they can't run a write-in campaign.
Correct.
Okay. That's my question. I'll go down and talk to her anyway.
Yeah, talk to her, find out the deadline.
All right, thank you guys for the time.
yep, thank you, Dustin. Anybody else from the public at this time?
Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13. My address is York. I'm actually from Bradshaw. I turned my phone off this morning.
Thank you,
I
Will.
want that on the record.
Anybody else from the public this morning? Not seeing anybody get up, we will continue to move down the agenda. There is no need for an executive session I'm aware of at this time. There is no general assistance cases, so next up will be payroll and vendor claims. Everybody should have had those. Any questions?
Fairly light overall compared to
Somewhat normal.
sometimes. Nothing out of the ordinary that I saw. We did talk a little bit about a few of them, but I think those all made sense. So I would make a motion to approve payroll and vendor claims as presented.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Odd?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Oberman?
Yes. Okay. There is no funding transfers required at this time that I'm aware of. And of course, our public hearing is not till 9 o'clock. We do have the handbook on the agenda today. We will wait for, we can discuss it a little bit. Maddie is en route with our HR, with Zell, to be here with us this morning too. So when she gets here, we'll deep dive into that.
Yep.
So guys, this is kind of like a meeting of old. We open up and then we recess unless you got something else. We got committee reports to do. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about this morning?
Go ahead.
I sat at the Blue Valley Zoom meeting,
Okay.
and nothing really out of the ordinary. It seemed, obviously I've never sat in one before, and so they initiated some new members and then talked about starting that process to me, and talking about different changes coming up to the budget and what they're gonna be offering. Like, obvious one was, they're not doing a lot of COVID vaccines anymore, so, but other than that, nothing.
Okay. Is that the main thing you had then, Joe, over the last 2 weeks? Was
Yeah, that was.
Blue Valley?
That was Blue Valley, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? For you?
That was it for me, yeah.
Okay. Andy?
Reaching Rural team for York County is, all but myself is en route to DC right now. I'll be joining them later this evening. It's kind of a big week for that group. We're presenting tomorrow in front of a panel of government program officials on the status of York County, particularly mental health and drug-related issues. So presenting our case to continue to receive funding and additional funding going forward. So kind of an important event in Washington this week.
Who's all representing us out there,
So
Andy?
Tristan and Josh Gillespie are actually doing the presentation. Gary will be out there. Oh goodness, I'm missing two more people. Myself and I can never remember her name. Lori. Four Quarters.
Laura
Laura. Thank you.
McDougal?
Yeah. She will also be out there as well.
Okay.
So,
Is a presentation, obviously the program is just getting up and running, so is it's just
yeah,
a why type of
yeah,
deal?
it's basically presenting the state in which our county is sitting as far as crime rates, arrest records, drug and alcohol related issues our counties are facing, and what our ideas are for making improvements in the county from programming and training and education standpoints. So,
You know, a question has been asked of me, and I guess I didn't have a good answer, you know, with the freeze that took place last week, and I didn't have an opportunity to talk to Gary. Did you talk to Gary about that?
yeah, so the freeze has been lifted. The president did give us some clarity on as to the programs he was going to be looking at. These do not seem to be in his sights, so to
Okay.
speak, as programs he wants to eliminate. So going forward, by COSUB grant and all that, and the juvenile grants that we've received should not be in jeopardy going forward.
Good.
So
So it should be kind of business as usual.
it should be
for us.
business as usual, yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we actually got, the president did, his office elaborated a little more, those are areas of importance.
Okay.
I guess I can add that Blue Valley also sent out an email about the freeze, and then probably sent another email after that that said never mind.
Never mind. Okay. Well, there was a lot of confusion surrounding
Yeah, it
it
wasn't super clear.
at first. They were right.
Went to a meeting in Lincoln, and it wasn't run by Region 5, but it had to do with opioid money and how they're spending it, and how they've been told if they want more money, how to spend it. Had to do with being able to, they have, I can't remember what the drug is, but you can take some Monoxin, is that right? It's Naloxone, thank you. If you overdose and stuff, and the availability and everything they're trying to do in Lincoln and Omaha so that people have availability of things. And one of the things that surprised me is that right along that I-80 corridor, there's lots of claims due to drug overdoses. Of course, York County sits right on that corridor, so the middle part of the county, right by the interstate, was one of the top 4 for bad things, claims and stuff. But everything else, we were way low. So it's like anything we can do to prevent that. Also, just the availability and people knowing. I don't think people know where they can get something because I put on my phone where to get it and it told me to dial 988. Well, that's too late. People need to know where they can get something if something happens. And also, they just discussed a lot of different things. And there were a lot of really smart people sitting in that room discussing different things to do. And it was just eye-opening to see what's going on. And if you don't think it's here, it's here. It's everywhere. So being prepared for things like that. And then I also went to the legislature for a couple of days, spoke to our congressman's helper. His name's Matt. Can't tell you his last name, sorry, but he'll sit down and talk with you anytime you want. Janice sees me everywhere she goes because I go to some of the same meetings she does, so I didn't want to bother her. But they will sit and listen to you if you want to. I made an appointment with Matt, 8:30 in the morning. I was there at 8:30, and I didn't leave there till 9:15. And told him all the bills I was concerned with and stuff I was concerned with. They will make the time. You have to fit their schedule sometimes, but sometimes see or talk to him, but she gets everything you tell him. So, that's it.
Okay. Daniel?
Okay. YCDC full board met last week. It was a very good meeting, well attended. Probably one of the fuller rooms that I've seen on that board, so it was very encouraging to see so many people taking initiative this year. Attended the zoning, planning and zoning board meeting last week. They had good discussion. It sounds like some of those zoning regulations will be coming back up to this board, and we'll be discussing them for finalization. Randy and I met with Sarah Scott from the Department of Revenue, along with Kurt after our last board meeting, and had good discussion with her regarding valuations in the county and kind of putting in a plan of notification for any changes in valuations this year, and then as it comes into Board of Equalization and our review, should there be any protests. And so I think there's been a good plan of action surrounding that. And then I did have a conversation with Tom Bliss from Send, just notifying him that Joe would be taking my place on that board. So in the next couple weeks, we'll try and find a time where Tom and Joe and I can sit down and make that introduction and make that switch.
Sounds good.
That's what I got for today.
Okay. I was not able to attend the zoning for other obligations, but I have a feeling that you're right. It's going to be coming back to us, and so I don't know that if everybody's got a copy. I think I've got a copy of what Marvin Associates have put out as kind of recommendations. I guess I'd like the board to start looking at that and start familiarizing what we're going to do. It would be nice if they meet again the 24th. Does that sound right?
I think so.
24th. They meet again. If those come back at us, which we anticipate they will, that we can take the ball and try to get something finalized maybe before planning season gets going and go. So we have a finalization to this. So that's one point that, like I say, if we don't have this, if we don't have the zoning, whatever we need, let's get together and figure out what information you guys all need so you can start reviewing and looking and putting it through your thought process again. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I believe we all got a letter from the state judicial branch informing us of what they'd like to do through legislation this year, and that's take the district court clerk take it back. NACO is opposed to this at this time. I don't see them changing whatsoever. So if you want any more information on that also, we can talk to Sherilyn upstairs. The stance that NACO is taking is that it would be one last local control we'd be losing. Currently we already operate the county court system that way, but the district court is obviously elected. The district court clerk is elected by us, and that's the stance that NACO is taking. Along with NACO also has, there's 13 pages of bills that affect county government this year. So if you need a copy of that, I believe NACO sent those out to everybody. But like I say, if you need a copy of that, or I watched a Zoom meeting for 4 hours a Thursday ago, and you didn't get to watch much other than the spreadsheet, but listen to the conversation the board of directors talked about how they would oppose or stay neutral. There's everything on here from the inheritance to the epic taxes back again. There's all kinds of things that affect us one way or another. So it's good to review that. I know Leroy has spent a couple days down there. There will be hearings coming up that we may be called to ask to testify one way or another, depending on how we feel on the subject. So that is forthcoming. And I think that's most everything of the last 2 weeks, other than, like you said, we we met with Sarah Scott. It's going to be a little bit confusing this year, especially after the action that we take again today with the property tax payers. They're going to get a new statement for last year. Some are going to get preliminary notice evaluation changes because of the action we took as a board last year, kept the values at the level they were, and they kept us out of sync with the state of what they're requesting. One of the factors that we noticed in the numbers were that the acreages, rural acreages, that's supposed to be in the 92 to 100% are sitting about 63% right now. So when you say that maybe protests, we know there's going to be protests this year, and hopefully people come forward. Kurt, as the assessor, he can talk to everybody prior to March 19th, and he can try to solve those issues with them up until that point. But then after March 19th, then it has to be done by the Board of Equalization. So it'll be very interesting this year. We'll get through it. It's going to be confusing once they start getting more letters, more statements. So we'll just have to walk them through it and hopefully get it done. So that's the main thing that I have this morning, other than just the normal little things that we take care of, on a day-to-day basis right now. You got anything? Nothing? Okay. Well, we do not have till 9 o'clock a public hearing, but do you want to go through anything prior to Harv, and then we'll open it up for the public at 9 o'clock? This would be on the 1 and 6.
Sure. I can review the one-year plan so everybody knows. Basically, we have 3 projects that the county road department will be doing themselves. That is G1038, and it's clean ditches, replace culvert, and gravel road K between 8 and 9 for an estimated cost of $65,000. G1075 is clean ditches, gravel road 12 between roads G and H for an estimated cost of $45,000. Let's see, yes. And then 1076 is clean ditches and gravel road 20 between R and S for an estimated cost of $50,000. That is up by east of Thayer is where that road is. Then the next 3 that are on the one-year program is Mill and Overlay Country Club Avenue between, basically it says Road L and West Nobles Road. It's where the pavement is just on both sides of 81 out there. And that is the bids that we took for that toward the end of last year for the $293,074 was where I rounded it to. Else, that 276 is mill and overlay East 25th Street between the fairgrounds and Delaware Avenue for $273,735. Part of that the city will pick up. I think that was 660 feet of it, somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 plus or minus. L277 Mill and Overlay Road G between the railroad tracks and Highway 34 for an estimated cost of $203,857. That is in front of Clutie Steel out there from there to get that up because of the amount of traffic that is running on that road, the way it was starting to break up. Well, preserve its life for a while. So that is the 1 year plan. The 6 year plan, I'm not going to read that. I did add one bridge to that bridge, and it's clear at the bottom. It would be the bridge down on Road 3 between 81 and M by Camp Katera down there. That bridge is getting toward the end of its life, but it's going to be an expensive one. I don't know where we're going with it. I can make a case for not having a bridge there. It would be safer for Camp Katera because they wouldn't have a lot of traffic by it. But they would have to go around a little further to get there. But $1 million is a lot of money to spend for a bridge. When is it absolutely necessary? So somewhere in the future, you guys will get to make a decision. But that's the only thing I added to the 6 year plan on that one.
Harv, on the 3 road in the 1 year, obviously the 6 year, we can deal with those too.
Yes.
Because it is just the 3 projects, does that seem like a conservative? I mean, it seems like in the past we've had more in on the 1 year and with just having the 3 projects on there.
We have been, but we also have to have that maintenance flyby trying to get them done. So by doing the 3 projects, it's going to allow us to go back and fix culverts that need to be replaced, clean out box culverts that need to be because we haven't had the manpower to take care of it. So if by doing the 3 1-mile stretches, it's going to free us up to do some of the maintenance stuff that we have not been doing.
So as I look through the list of others, there may be some of the other roads that we may be able to get to, depending on weather and different things like that.
Depending on how everything works forward, we can always pull them off of the 6 year and bring up if we need more projects.
Okay.
But we also have a lot of maintenance stuff that we need to do that we haven't been doing that is also going to take time. And of course, we don't have to put those all on one year project list.
Okay.
And the mill and overlays, that bid was for a turnkey, so we will not have to do anything with it other than just make sure that we're doing it correctly.
And some of the other bridges then that you have on the 6 year plan, are they in the shape where, I mean, they're not to the point where we need to shut the bridges down yet. They're just whatever testing you're doing or visual stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Getting into concerning parts.
And there was a couple of roads on here, the armor coats. Is that something that would be better now in the near future, or is that?
Well, and I've done quite a bit of legwork on this, on doing different ones of those. And as I sit there and look at paying that through the FFDP money, is what I was looking at using. The milling and putting an overlay on was going to get up there where it was going to scare the heck out of that budget for using that budget for also the crack sealing and so on that we had been doing. But yes, it's all important. It's just a matter of where can we find the money to do all the stuff we need to do.
So if we was looking at those roads, and I'm thinking about the McCool East, and then, of course, where it connects on, goes up to the interstate, it is, I mean, if we do them in the next 5 years, is that okay, or plan to do them in the next 5 years? Or is it truly something that we really should be looking at and try to find some money, maybe either through budgeting or through inheritance or something like that to do that?
The one that I spent the most time on was doing from Road 6 to the interstate, and that's got a good base underneath it, because we had it cored. Would be do a profile mill, like basically a 1-inch mill, just to smooth everything out, re-truck seal the thing and chip seal over top of that. And that was one that I looked at, but I think we can also go another year, because there are some spots on there that we have to do something with this year, patch-wise, that where we have things starting to come loose. The mill would not go deep enough to take care of these, so we're gonna have to do a little bit more work on it, and that's once again back to where the maintenance items of why I didn't put more on the 1-year plan, so that we could do some of these things that we need to be doing out there.
Okay.
So, but
Well, we
yeah.
are just past 9, so we will go ahead and open up the public hearing for the 1 and 6 year road and bridge program, and that was advertised in the paper January 10th, 17th, and 24th, and also on the website. So at this point in time, anybody that would like to come forward and give any comments for or against the 1 and 6 year program that York County is looking at, they may do so.
Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, Road 13, yeah, 13, York, Nebraska. I'm from Bradshaw, Nebraska. As I was sitting here thinking, I don't have really anything against this 1 and 6 year plan. The thing that I have brought up before, and I have not seen any evidence that you even heard anything or whatever, and that's, I suggested a long time ago that you start thinking out in terms of a extra long range program for the county roads, like 15, 20 years down the road, ways that you can start thinking about money and so forth. I understand you never know what you're going to get. I get all that, but if you don't have a fairly longer range program, it just, all it is fixing a bunch of it's a bunch of Band-Aid fixes, which a lot of this is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a little farther down the road, planning might have helped a little bit. One thought process in my head is that, yeah, you don't have money a lot, but the cheapest time to do something is the sooner the better. Never gets cheaper down the road to do it. And that's kind of where I'm coming with a long-term process. Also, it kind of seems to me like this whole road business falls on Harvey, because he's the county superintendent. Well, he ought to, but for him alone to have to come up with a 20-year plan or even a 6-year plan is kind of, I think it puts a lot of whatever on him. You know, pressure, people not liking their road and all that. So I'm not a believer in more committees. I guess what I'm thinking of is some maybe, I can't say it that way. So anyway, I won't. But the whole point is that to me, a lot of it's the legislature has got everybody into a knee-jerk thing, because you're so afraid you can't get money from the legislature. You can't. They keep putting the screws to you of what you can spend and what you can't spend, and knee-jerk stuff just never works out very well.
Thank you, Willard.
Well stated.
Mhm.
Anybody else from the public this morning? Seeing nobody else get up, we will close the public hearing at this point in time, and we will take up the discuss and act on the 1 and 6 year road and bridge program. Harv, I did have one last one, and I may have missed it in here, but I know we've talked about this road in the past, and that's out on, I believe it's to the ethanol plant.
Yeah.
Where we've been kind of patching. We know it's a very expensive redo. Have monitoring that. Have we done any more other than just watch it break up, or have we done any patching? Any plan?
It is on there. It is, I can't tell you the number right off the top of my head.
Right.
But it is on the 1 and 6 year plan. It is down toward the bottom is where I put it. The patches that we had put in there are holding.
Okay.
It's not breaking loose. We have not had to go back and put more patches on it. It is one of those deals that we're gonna have to deal with sometime. It's just where it is. Yesterday, I was told there was 16 trucks sitting on that road. Part of them still sitting on 34, waiting to get in, both sides of Road O. So there is a huge amount of traffic out there. But like I said, I was looking at that last summer, last fall, and it was holding up and not coming loose on those patches yet at that point when I was out there. Now, see where we go through the winter with and see what it does with the freeze thaw and the moisture on it, then I will get a better idea again this spring when the frost goes out and whether we have to do any more. But no, once we can figure out where to come up with the money to do it, it's another one that needs to be done sometime down the road.
Well, we're a few years, paying the bond off yet, all the previous work we did, so it'll be just a few before we do anything major again.
And no, it is not just falling apart.
Right.
It's not as bad as other roads.
Yeah.
One question on one road. End of Delaware, 25th Street, goes from there out to 34.
Yes.
That paved road.
Yes.
Any looking at it as possible because of the edges falling apart on it? You know what's happening. And there's because the ditch is right there, there's no sides to it, and it's starting to creep in.
That's another one we get to work on. and
Because
when
of
we
all the
can get it
traffic.
scheduled.
Yeah.
And what we are doing with this one on 25th Street will go to Delaware and stop there.
Yeah, I know.
That way, when we come in, because the city has some issues on their end on both sides of 25th and Delaware, it would be great to coordinate with them when they can do that we can do all of Delaware from 34 all the way down.
That'd be nice.
It would be a great time to do it, and that way we could do the whole intersection. I didn't want to try to go through the intersection with just one lane or one part. Now, it would be easier to do that later when we do all the rest of the streets around.
Anybody else have anything on the 1 and 6?
Did you approve the 1 and 6 plan?
Thank you, Andy.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Harvey, for all your work on that.
You guys can sign it. I think Mary has a resolution for you.
How's the signs? I noticed was out in the dark this weekend, and it looks like some of our signs now we've got extra. And they look good. I mean, they're bringing more attention to them, whether they're cautionary stuff.
That is part of that sign program that the guys were working on. That is the 1,134 signs that we have to put up, stop signs and stop ahead signs. in your annual report, you will be getting the 1st of March. We have 400 of those done. We are now in the time where Mother Nature said we aren't going to do anymore, because it is now starting to split the bases. When we try to drive them in, it's taking the ears off of the bases, it's breaking those off because of the frost. So we just have to pull back and wait until the frost goes out. Then we will get back on to the last 700, and some of them is what we will wind up going in and doing, starting hopefully sometime in March we can go. The sooner the frost goes out, the sooner we can get back to doing it. And that will bring all of our existing stop signs and stop ahead signs up to that spec. Or unless our time forgot someone to put in for the program. I just got something from the state saying they were all supposed to be in by June of 25. Talked to Jody at the NACO conference. She says, no, if you have them in by December of 25, that would be good. I said we could make that. So I will send her a letter saying why we are not going to be able to make June, because there's no way we're going to make June.
Okay.
So, but yes, they will. We've got 2 guys working on it full time when the frost is back out, but we're at a wall on that right now.
It'll just look good. Like I say, it's bringing attention that you can really see. Obviously, you've seen, everybody else has been out there seeing it. Just really stand out. That's a good thing.
If people don't stop at them now, it's because they don't want to stop at the stop sign.
I'm sure.
It's not that we don't have it out there where people can see.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks, Harvey, for everything. Okay, at this point in time, Maddie made it.
Made it.
Nice to see you this morning, Maddie. We're discussing act on a revision to the York County Employee Handbook. Maddie, we'll just have you who you are and for the record, please.
Yep. Maddie Hughes, Rizzo, HR.
And does everybody have copies, one way or another, of what we'll be talking about here? Do you want to just look at the summary page, or how do you want to go through it?
Well, we want to go
Yes,
through all
I
of
am.
them.
Do you want to go page
yeah,
by page?
Well, no, I put together the summary of handbook changes as a way to not go through every single page. So I'll back up just a little bit. The process, I know I sent all of you, your commissioners here, an email last week, explaining what the process looked like. So we put together a handbook committee. Every department head had the opportunity to be part of that committee. Some opted not to, and that was fine. And then Randy sat on as the board member. We started this process going page by page, policy by policy. There are some policies that are required to be in a handbook. So we have that standard language that was added in, and then there are some policies that are more fringe type benefits that we can customize to the county. So that was the conversation. As I mentioned in the email, it's a delicate dance between supporting the employees but also protecting the county with these policies. So items that were added in, no harassment policy and complaint procedures, so we added those in. Nursing mothers, also a requirement. Recording work hours, we changed the verbiage of that just a little bit to add that exempt employees will need to put in vacation and sick time when they'll be gone for more than half of their scheduled hours. So that was added in. Also for recording work time, we added in a sentence that states that if you are part of a department or an employee that doesn't have direct access to a time clock, roads, sheriffs, some like aging, they don't have direct access to that time clock. It says to refer to your department policies on that. So sheriff's department does it a little bit different, roads department does it a little bit different. Whatever works for your department, reference that. Compensatory time. So we raised that to a max cap of 80 hours on the comp time. And if you guys have questions as I go through this, please just speak up. Benefit eligibility, we added a new look-back measure of 6 months to determine employment benefit eligibility. This would be in an instance of someone changing status from maybe part-time to full-time or full-time back to part-time. If they have a leave of absence, any of those scenarios, we would use that 6-month look-back to determine if they are eligible or if they're newly eligible. Those types of scenarios, okay?
When I think the way we used to practice it was if somebody dropped below certain hours, then we required, like payment for the health insurance and stuff like that, and then we got to looking at the Affordable Care Act did not, that we were supposed to look at it longer than just the week they worked.
Correct.
So we kind of changed that
Yep.
habit of what we were
Yep.
doing.
Vacation time. So this is a big change. This will benefit the employees. So previously, York County required you to work an entire year before you were able to accrue any type of vacation or use any of that vacation. So we changed that. The employees will now start accruing that vacation upon hire. And then they'll be able to use any accrued vacation once they exit their introductory period of 90 days. So with that change came an additional tier in that vacation layout. So first year employee will earn 40 hours, second year will then earn 48 hours. An additional change in the vacation policy is a little bit clearer language on how and when you're able to carry over hours. So in each tier of the vacation policy, you have a max cap of accrued hours. So you are allowed to carry over that max cap plus 80 hours. So whatever tier you fall in as far as seniority, you have that max cap and then plus 80 hours that you can carry over into your next anniversary year. Anything above and beyond that will be paid out at the anniversary year. So an employee is never losing hours or being penalized for not using it. Rather, we're just putting a number to what they can carry over. Anything additional will be paid out to them.
So let's say years of service 3 to 5, and they haven't taken any, so they've built up a bank of 80 hours. Then they can. So the next year, they would earn another 80 hours. Then, and if they didn't take any, then if they roll to the next year, they'd either have to start taking it or it'd be being paid out.
Correct. Yep. Any questions on that?
We have many employees that that's one factor right now currently. Maybe it's a Cheryl question.
Yeah, there's a handful that have a lot of vacation on the books right now. There's various departments that just because of their workload, it's really hard to take off. Or when they do take off, they've already worked so much that there's no point using the vacation because they're up to the number of hours they need for that week. So yeah, there are some that will start paying out.
Yep, and that was part of the larger conversation that we had. A lot of employers will just put that max cap on, and then as soon as you hit that max cap, you stop earning. But through our conversation, we felt that that would be penalizing the employee. So instead of them stopping accruing, we allow them to continue to accrue, but then need to be paid down. So
We'll be paid out at year end, not through pay period. Say I'm maxed out at June and my next, I'm gonna accrue 4 more hours. I'm not gonna get 4 extra hours paid out that pay period.
Correct, but it is based on anniversary year, not calendar year. Yep.
So it can be kind of a budgeting, and it will be
Right.
for a few of the employees. As Cheryl stated, we had a couple departments that they got too much in their bank. They're not the compensatory and the vacation is not meant to be a retirement.
Right.
Our employees need to have a healthy mix of taking time off and working, and we need to help them achieve that goal. And so the first year or so here, it will be kind of a budgeting, trying to figure out, because some of those, in the hundreds of hours that we need to get down to this level. And we'll get there, but it'll be a budgeting, issue, whether we can do it all in one budget year or string it over to the next one or whatever, so.
Right.
But
we'll
it
work
should,
with those.
it should then be a better budgeting
Absolutely.
tool going forward once we work through this a little bit, because let's say employee X retires and they've built 200 hours of vacation and we weren't necessarily planning for that, that's a budget hit as well. So
Exactly. Yep. And that's where that delicate dance
Right.
comes in.
Sure.
Of not penalizing the employee because they have to work so much,
Mhm.
but supporting them, also keeping in mind the budget, so we're not writing massive checks when an employee leaves. Any other questions on
Yeah.
that change?
it just so help me, is this typical? Employees may not take time off before it's earned. That's fairly standard across industry.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, very standard. So what that sentence is saying is that an employee that has $0 or 0 hours in their bank can't take any time off and go into that negative.
Right.
So instead, we'd be looking at more of an unpaid leave instead of paying them and then having them in the red for their accruals.
Mhm. And which just prompts a question here. How does for the carryover? You said that's based on anniversary year. Is the do we track? Let's say this employee A that is 2 years of service. Are we tracking their hours? They get 48 from February 1st, and then they have that to use until the next February 1st. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, a full 12 months
Right.
from their anniversary.
Right. Okay. Is that from a tracking standpoint? Is that easier to track than a calendar year?
In
Maybe
my-
that's more.
In my opinion, no. It's
Right.
definitely more work.
Yep.
To move from an anniversary date, how it's always been done,
Hmm.
to a calendar year
Yep.
would also be a lot of work.
Sure.
So it was kind of, that's how it's always been done, and
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with it from a compliance
Sure.
standpoint, so.
I do like the anniversary date versus a calendar year. Previous employment, we were always calendar year.
Yep.
And it was, one company was use it or lose it scenario.
Okay.
It was
Yep.
paid out.
Yep.
Well, both scenarios, what happened as the calendar year approached, all of a sudden, your staff
Everybody
went
quick.
to 60%.
Sure. Yep.
And
Yep.
it's hard to get work done without.
True.
So
Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's a
do
very.
like the calendar year.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Okay. Very good.
Okay. Okay, holidays, not any massive changes this last, well, I guess it happened at the beginning of this year and also at the end of last year, where the state and federal government declared holidays that were not previously holidays. And in some cases, like Christmas Eve, that worked out fine. Other cases, as the day of mourning, causes maybe some issues with the courthouse being open, closed. So what we decided was to put something in the handbook that stated if there was a holiday declared throughout the year that was not on that pre-designated list that's in the handbook, the county board has the discretion to decide to keep the courthouse open and then award the employees a floating holiday to be used within that calendar year. So again, balancing the business, the organization, as well as benefiting the employee. If it is a state or federal holiday, we don't want to penalize them in any way. So providing them that floating holiday, but then balancing that with also keeping the courthouse open. So that was added. In the event that that does happen, employees working that day will get their regular pay. This is not holiday pay. If that were the scenario, they get just their regular pay plus that floating holiday.
One thing on that, I wonder, it says in here, at the discretion of the county board, the courthouse may stay open. I wonder if that should be changed to county offices. Thoughts on that?
To not limit it to.
Right, exactly. Because courthouse means county, but could be construed, okay, what about area of aging? What about roads? What about extension? So I wonder if that would
Good point.
be a little bit clearer if we change that wording.
Any opposition to that?
The thought is that that's what it means, but you're right.
Right.
To spell it out differently would be okay.
Okay.
So, quick question, we made the decision a month or so ago on giving that floating holiday, and we ended up having to pay time and a half.
Yes.
Correct? Or just getting us around that?
Correct. Yep.
So we'd still be if we did that very same scenario where we offered the floating holiday, what this is doing is those employees that worked that day would still just receive their straight pay for that day rather than time and a half and getting a holiday, floating holiday.
Okay, and then we cleared up some language around the Christmas Eve closure. Now this, again, is only effective if Christmas Eve does not get declared a federal or state holiday. There have been in the past some offices that choose to close at noon on that day. So we just updated it to read that if the county offices do close, employees who choose to continue working will receive straight time pay. Employees who choose to leave when the office closes will not be paid or will be required to use their paid time off. So this was also a really great conversation that we were able to have with some different offices. There seemed to be some just not consistency. So like if the clerk's office or the treasurer's office closed, in the past, they were getting holiday pay, like for the rest of the day. And then the conversation, from the sheriff's department or the roads department was, well, what about us?
Yep.
Which was, I felt very valid. So if they don't have that luxury of closing, right? So if that office chooses to close, which is fine, they will be required to use paid time off, or their employees can work the whole day also. So, any questions on that? Just a little bit of a change there.
Right. Before we move out of holidays, got a few questions. I don't think these were changes, but they're just questions that I have. So on page 24, employees eligible for holidays, benefit eligible employees will receive pay for each holiday, whether or not they are scheduled for work of those days. This is atypical, correct, or not? As far as most, all of my previous employments, if your normal scheduled days were Monday through Thursday and the holiday was a Friday, you were not awarded that holiday. Is that typical, atypical?
I would say probably 50-50.
Okay. Yep.
up on that.
Yep. Right. And I think it's always been done that way here, so I don't know that it's not me advocating for a change, but I
Right.
just wanted to.
Right, yep, I would say about 50-50. It's probably not something, if it was never in a handbook, that I would say, hey, let's add this
Sure.
in.
Yep.
But also one of those things that it's already in there, let's not take it.
Right. Yep, exactly. Okay. So then the examples on the next page, I did not follow those. I find them confusing. Have you read through those? Like, let's see if I can figure out what I didn't highlight. What I found confusing.
So the one that says for a holiday falling on a Friday, an employee scheduled to work Tuesday through Friday for 7.5 hours per day would need to be at work or in paid status, meaning they're using vacation or sick time for 7.5 hours on both the Thursday before the holiday and the Tuesday after the holiday in order to receive that holiday pay.
Right. Sorry, I misspoke. Down a little farther,
Sorry.
after the paid holiday credit,
Okay.
there's an example of Arbor Day, a Friday, where an employee works 4 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. The employee will receive 8 hours of holiday pay on Arbor Day. Normally, the supervisor would grant the employee 8 hours off on their regular scheduled work days earlier that week. However, due to scheduling needs, the supervisor may have them continue to work their normal schedule. Either way, the employee will receive 8 hours of holiday pay on Arbor Day. As long as the employee does not work more than 40 hours a week that week, no overtime is occurred. I guess maybe that one is somewhat straightforward. Basically, in my understanding, that basically it's saying if you're working 10-hour days, a 40-hour week, you're still only receiving 8 hours of holiday pay. Is that kind of what that's trying to portray?
Yes, yep, correct. So I think this example is probably geared mostly towards the roads department that work those
Sure.
4 10-hour shifts, since they work Monday through Thursday when they're in that seasonal schedule. And this example is saying the Arbor Day is falling on that Friday. So sometimes, and Harvey, you might be able to chime in a little bit here, it depends on when the holiday falls, whether they work that full 40 hours then that week or not. And what it's saying is that they receive 8 hours regardless if they've already worked those 4
Sure.
10-hour shifts or if they only worked 3 of those 10-hour shifts.
Okay. Right.
They're not going to get more holiday pay to make up for it.
Right. Okay.
So
Let's see.
if they work the 4 10s, and the holidays on Friday, they get paid 48 hours that week of straight pay.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And
So
we
then-
have a point, because we are over board,
okay.
into the board equalization.
Yeah, that's
You got
fine.
one more, or you pick
Oh,
one, or
no.
more?
I have more in
Okay,
here.
Well, sorry to break away, but
No,
at
that's okay.
9:30, we did advertise that board equalization. So at this time, I will recess the Board of Commissioners and turn it over to Daniel to go from there.
Very good. We'll convene as the Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Brooks,
Present.
Art,
Here.
Burgess,
Here.
Bowman,
Here.
Overton.
Here.
All right. Open meetings law is in the back of the room as well as outside and on our website. Proof of publication for this meeting was in the January 30th newspaper as well as posted on our website January 24th. Need to review and approve the minutes from our January 21st Board of Equalization meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Gross.
Yes. And adopt today's agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
Yes. All right. Public forum. Is there anyone that would wish to speak regarding Board of Equalization? Seeing none, we'll move on. And item today, discuss and act on tax list corrections. So, I believe that this came about in finding some miscalculations regarding tax credits that were printed on the statements that went out to property owners in York County. And Kurt, do you want to give a quick synopsis of what we found?
Yeah, so the tax rates for the tax credit rates for the non-ag land and the ag land were not correct when statements went out. I did not update those in my system like I should have, or I sent information over to the treasurer's office, so it's resulted in miscalculation of tax rates. So what happened was the taxpayers were overcharged on, they should have received more credit than what they got. So I discovered that doing a tax list correction. So residential, it kind of varied anywhere between like $6 to $12. Ag land obviously is going to be a little bit more. There's a lot more acres involved there. So, we worked with our CAMA system and their vendor to figure out a solution to this. Worked with the Department of Revenue. We've seen this before, so they knew how we should approach this. And so we've got a plan in place here to fix it. And just from the assessment side, I guess that's
Okay.
what happened.
Very good. So basically, we've identified the problem or the parcels. We're in the process, I believe, of printing new statements.
Once he gives me the information or admits the information,
Okay.
then we can start there.
Okay, very good.
And I have that
And we'll
information ready to go, just wait
have
for
the
something to be done.
yep, exactly. So we'll take the action, make the corrections, and then the ball can keep rolling forward. Okay. And then those that have already paid their taxes, we have identified those parcels, and then based on our action today, the treasurer's office will be issuing refund checks on those parcels, correct?
Yes, I was going to ask, what your guys' thoughts were on doing, if they paid in full, writing the refund check, but if they've only paid their first half, then applying that refund to their second half.
Right. Okay.
That's kind of what your thoughts were.
Yep. I would say the cleanest probably is to apply it to their second half. I would say that more than likely that's going to be all right with most people. Do we as a board have thoughts on that?
I would agree that, if they haven't paid it in full, then we just apply it. I mean, it'd be just like paying 3/4 of it up front or something like that. So even though we know it isn't that much, I did a cross-section, Kurt, of all the parcels, just grab different pieces, and you're right. We're looking at $10 average is what I came up with. Of course, quarters were $100 average, so a little bit more. But even in that affair, put that towards their next would make sense. It'll save a little bit of the mistake in cost and stuff like that, because currently we are not accepting payment on anything until we rectify the problem. So, yeah, I think that'd be a good plan.
So yeah, I think that's enough direction for you that can go that direction. Very good. Okay, so Any thoughts, questions, comments from the board regarding the tax list corrections?
It does affect all parcels in York County, one way or another. It affects them. So everybody will be getting, this a little bit we talked about, notices, along with some getting the preliminary notices. And so the offices, basically, you guys are going to get the brunt of all the questions. So I would just say that, you know, we have our staff informed on how to answer all the same way, you know, whether it's a sheet of paper or whatever, that we just have them ready to go, because there's going to be questions, you know, and maybe we get a copy of that too, so we know
Right.
exactly, I mean, I got a handle on it, but we know exactly how to answer those questions too.
So I have a question. Will they be sent something saying how much was applied to their second half?
Yes, we are gonna send a letter with the,
Okay.
new statements.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or information from the assessor or treasurer side?
That new school tax credit,
Mhm.
that was correctly entered in. the
Okay,
system.
right.
That's not affected as well. Just wanted to clarify that.
Very good.
And we still work, I visited with Megan just a little bit yesterday, and we don't know the answer to this yet. You know, obviously, we collect money for all political subdivisions.
Mhm.
So when we look at what's in front of us at the 111,000, that essentially is going back, that doesn't mean it's just all county money. There'll be other political subdivisions undoubtedly part of that, so we'll have to work that out with them also.
Yep, there's a statute that talks about that, so.
So we've got some guidance.
Right, correct. I did have one question. On the tax list correction form, so we have the billed value and then the correct value. The correct value is a little higher than the billed value. Is that, that's just the way that the tax credits worked, correct? Okay, all right. Entertain a motion for the tax list corrections.
Move to approve tax list corrections and the plan of the treasurer's and assessor's office to rectify the situation.
Is very good. Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Overmeyer,
Yes.
Fogg,
Yes.
and Brooks.
Yes. All right. Very good. Thanks.
Yesterday, we received notice, and I think you guys did too, about some trip hearings that are coming up in April, on April 1st. First one's with Green Plains at 9 o'clock on April 1st, and the second one is that's the permissive exemption for the Yorkshire Playhouse, and that's at 1 o'clock on April 1st. That's one where across the state, the Department of Revenue's been questioning a lot of the playhouses, community playhouses, and whether they should have a permissive exemption or not. So we're not the only county where this has happened either. The burden's probably going to be on the playhouse and the CBOE to determine why they should be granted that permissive exemption. Well, if anyone from the playhouse wants to come in and visit with me about that, please feel free to do so. We have a little time to get ready for that, but at the same time, April 1st will be here before you know it. So,
Kurt, did you receive that via email from, because I don't remember
Yeah, I
seeing
don't think
I
that.
got
we-
a hard copy yesterday in the mail. I think Mary, you got the hard copy.
Okay.
So she brought it over to me.
Okay,
So,
all
I
right.
and
think I
I
gave
think,
copies to you,
Yeah,
Dan.
probably. Okay. Very good.
and I don't know if I assume the county attorney's office received notice as well. If not, I'll get you notice of that or make them notice of that.
If you make a copy just in case, it may be on Gary's desk. Gary's
It
office.
might be in your
Okay.
files. And then at that, we would need representation from the county attorney's office to attend those.
Or one of you guys.
Right. One or the other, or
Or
I
both.
would do- I would do both.
okay. Very good.
I think that looking at the Turk calendar, York County is the only one to have that day. So
Okay.
we'll see how that. I haven't heard back yet from the Green Plains. I know
Okay.
I think hired new legal counsel, so we'll see if they'll reach out and have a conversation before then. So.
Okay. Very good. All right. We can adjourn as Board of Equalization.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, we will come back then as Board of Commissioners and continue our work on the handbook. Thank you. Daniel?
Okay. So then the next example on that same page where we were, for a 30-hour work week, employee who only works 4 hours on Arbor Day, they will be paid for 6 hours of holiday pay on Arbor Day. They are still eligible for 2 additional hours of holiday and would normally be granted these 2 hours off on another day within the same week. So I think it was, okay, so they only work 4 hours. They will be paid for 6 hours. So I think to me the wording is confusing because it's saying they will be paid for 6 hours, but then they're still eligible for 2 additional hours, which in my mind would make 8 hours. And so where am I reading that incorrectly?
Well, it is a little confusing,
Okay.
Daniel. I'm with you on that one. This was an example pulled directly from the previous
Correct.
handbook, so I imagine that it was a scenario that brought this to light.
Okay.
So how I'm reading it and how I understand this example is that if a 30-hour week employee, so if you reference the chart above,
Yep.
if they're typically a 30-hour week employee, they earn 6 hours of holiday
Right.
pay. If this employee is typically only scheduled for 4 hours on the holiday,
Okay.
then they still get the 6 hours.
Yep.
And they'll make up those other 2 hours in the week somewhere else if the department head deems that necessary. So it's the 4 hours plus the 2, which is getting us to the 6.
The 6.
Yes.
Very good. And then there was a section in the old handbook, and I just labeled it makeup hours. I'm not sure exactly, but that was removed. Do we know? Let's see if I believe where, if I remember correctly, it was, it kind of goes back to that 10-hour work week in the
Was it
ones
in
that
the
are.
holiday section
It
of the
was,
handbook?
yep.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
I believe possibly page 28 of the old handbook.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's an example. If a holiday pay falls when an employee is scheduled to work more hours than the allotted holiday pay they will receive, they will be required to or allowed to make up these hours. Example, the chart says that the employee will receive 6 hours of holiday credit on the day of the holiday. They are normally scheduled to work 8 hours. For that day, they are paid for 6 hours of holiday pay. The employee will be required to or allowed to make up the 2 additional hours they would normally work by either 1, working those 2 hours on another day in the same week, or by 2, using annual leave or compensatory time for those 2 hours if available. And I think, again, this goes back to probably the roads department. If they're working at 10 4-hour days and the holiday falls on a Tuesday, they're only going to receive 8 hours of pay.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they use 2 hours of holiday or comp time to make up so that their paycheck equals their normal 40 hours. And so I don't know.
Why was that not?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I know that's a fantastic question.
I don't think we,
About
we talked about nixing it because that wordage is actually in here. I'm trying to think where else it's in here, about allowing them to make up that time.
Well, it's
Yeah,
kind
that
of
they
it's
don't.
right.
That
It's
they couldn't get.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know that there wasn't any conversation about taking that away.
Right. Yep. It kind that example that we talked about just when we came back kind of
It's almost like the
does
reverse of
right,
that,
exactly.
though.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is. And it so I don't know. It seems like maybe it would be good to keep that in there.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. It's kind of one of like an implied
Right.
practice
Mhm.
also, but it's always good to
Right.
have it in here.
Mhm.
So yeah, we can. I've got on my list to add county offices to
Mhm.
that previous policy, and then we can add that example back in if you guys are all in favor of that. I think that's a very valid point.
There's a few, and you and I can, or whoever's tweaking this, there's a few I've noticed just editing things, but that really don't matter. We don't need to talk about those here. Okay,
Was that everything on the
next.
holiday?
I think that's everything that I had on the holiday section. So then you're gonna jump to state of emergency leave. The sick leave, occurring to a max of 960 hours. It's on page 26. What's typical is that, I mean, that again was in the last handbook. It seems
was.
like it's
That's a huge
huge
number.
amount.
And I typically, we're looking at like 40 to 80 hours
Right.
is all employers typically allow. And then an additional benefit that is not required is any payment of sick leave at the end of employment.
Mm-hmm.
So vacation, you're required
Yep.
to pay that out. Sick
Yep.
leave is not considered an earned wage, so you do not have to pay that out. York County does if you if you're eligible for retirement. So if you work with the county X amount of years, you're eligible for retirement, you can receive 50% of your sick leave,
Right.
whatever is in your bank paid out. So we did keep that.
Yep.
Um,
There was some clarity language added in there. I think that's good for how that can be handled.
yes.
Regarding that, also, I have a note here. The new law for part-time sick leave.
Yep.
Did we include,
So
or are we
you're
holding off on that, or what's that?
referencing
Are we
the Nebraska
right?
work fairness worker.
Yep, that just
Yes.
got
So
voted on.
actually, federal and state county government is exempt from
Okay.
that. Yep. So we don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
But I have lots of clients that do.
I'm sure.
It's gonna be an interesting one.
Yes. So yeah, no, I just wanted to, because that number seemed quite large to
It
me.
is.
So.
It is very large. Yes.
But again, it
Yep.
was in the old one, and I don't know that we're gonna yank it away. So
24 weeks.
right.
Well, you don't have, we have some,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, we don't have.
The build
a
up,
large
right?
build up of
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
Yep, and that is actually what kind of went into that, keeping that as well. Cheryl
Sure.
ran those numbers
Okay.
just to see what type of liability we were
Yep.
sitting on, and it's not massive.
Okay. Very good. In the FMLA, I think I see that after I did this, I reread it, and I think I answered my own question. But
Okay.
there's a sentence in here: spouses who work for the same employer also share a total of 26 weeks for FML leave. But that's for, because I was seeing the 12 and the 12 and then 26,
Oh, that's.
But that's
Service number.
right. Okay, very good. All right, thanks. And military leave, there wasn't any changes in that from the last time, right? Okay. All right, now we're caught up to where you want to be.
Great. Yes, thank you, Daniel. Okay, so state of emergency, new Nebraska regulations for when employees are called upon for service when the governor declares a state of emergency. So this was something that just was not in your previous handbook that needed to be added in. And changed up just a little bit to match the new regulations there. 5.
Before you,
Oh, yep.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Interject. I didn't see anything in here, and I don't know if there's anything we want to do, but the election leave was what prompted when I was going through here and saw it. Is there any guidance, or is there any counties that have a policy regarding employees that want to run, that are current employees of the county that want to run for elected county office? Is there any?
Great question.
Do we need guidance? Do we need any policies? Is there, or is there any guidance from you on any of that?
Yep, so that is an ever-evolving type of scenario. So I would stray away from putting any specific language towards that, because it's certainly going to depend if this person is, like for your instance, Mary, in the office and running for the department head of that same office.
Sure.
Or if it's an employee that we had this last year, a roads employee running for a commissioner's seat, and how to handle that. Now, there are specific state statutes that give guidance on how they can work their campaign and during that process. There's not a whole lot of guidance after the fact. So
Okay, right.
if they were to get elected, then now what? So in that scenario, if that were ever to happen, we would want to look at that on a case-by-case basis and make a decision on how to handle it at that time.
Okay. So then just before you get into 5.3, in 5.0, so we're looking at performance and conduct rules. This is under the employee conduct section. Examples of infractions. Number 1, working under the influence of alcohol or any illicit drug. And then it goes on to say, which interferes with expected job performance. Does that last little bit even need to be on there?
Probably not. No. There are some prescription drugs, things of that nature,
yeah.
that would be considered illicit, but they're prescribed and they're not. There are certain drugs that you can't drive a motor vehicle,
Sure.
but you consider that doesn't work.
Okay, right.
So, not really, Daniel.
Right, yep.
But it also doesn't hurt. So it's, I'll lean on you guys for that. But
Sure. Very good. Yes.
From a legal standpoint, we need it.
Okay. Very good.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Love that.
I can go into more depth.
It's okay.
We need it.
Okay. Very good. Thanks. It was like, if you're under the influence of alcohol, like, did you? Right. Got it. Okay. All right. Back to you.
Okay. So we are at 5.3, job abandonment. This is a policy that protects the county for if an employee no call, no show for 2 consecutive days. Obviously, in that time frame, we're going to be calling them. We're going to be making sure that they're alive and well. We're not just writing them off, right? But no call, no show, that is a voluntary resignation. It's not a termination, which would benefit the county when it comes to unemployment claims, things of that nature. This also pertains to someone walking off the job mid-shift. mid-shift, so they get angry, they leave. That's a voluntary resignation, again, protecting the county in that nature. So, and then we have 5.5, solicitation and distribution. Standard language to have in a handbook. We had some conversation around this as well, and I do with every client that I go through the handbook, because this doesn't mean that Sally can't come in and sell Girl Scout cookies. But we don't want that to take away from the work that we are doing here. We also don't want any solicitation or distribution of goods or services that are going to directly impact the work of the county, if that makes sense. So it has to be in there, but yes, you can sell Girl Scout cookies if you would like.
Did, was there anything you wanted to say on 5.4, confidential information?
Oops, I skipped right over that. I apologize.
That's all right.
This was just not in your previous handbook, so we added that in. The nature of your guys' business organization, you handle a lot of confidential information, so we felt it was very important to put that in the handbook so that your employees are not sharing any personal information here at work outside of work.
In the next, let's see, you're gonna go, yeah, okay. Couple quick questions on drug-free workplace.
Okay.
So if I read this correctly, currently, and again, this is just for my own clarification, obviously, safety-sensitive positions may be subject to drug and alcohol testing on a random basis. And those are currently the only positions that we do a random.
Randoms,
Okay.
yes, but every employee gets drug tested when they start.
Right, correct.
Yep.
And then the next down a little bit farther, when there is reasonable cause, we can do that testing.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep, reasonable suspicion, we're allowed to do that
Right.
as well.
And then, so now in county use, I had marked county vehicles. I found that later that we did add it, that there is a section in there, so
Okay.
that's fine. But I did use of internet under 5.9.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to have in there the county's right to block internet traffic, as far as if we are filtering out and saying you can't go to ABC website? Should that be listed in there as the county reserving that right to do that on?
It wouldn't hurt. You can. However, they are your computers.
Right.
It's your internet.
Sure.
So you have the right to do that, regardless if it's in the handbook or not.
Sure. Okay.